All right. Hi, Anna. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm really glad that we're meeting and having this interview because the invitations that you send out for your gatherings, I can feel the enthusiasm of what you're trying to bring. So, of course, I want to share it too with the world and my audience.
Thank you.
So, I want to start with your bio. Anna Demouchet, CDFA, is a multi-dimensional spiritual healer specializing in uncoupling, co-parenting, and spiritual somatic healing. She is a certified divorce financial analyst. I think that's why we started with the Anna Demouchet CDFA. Sacred spirituality coach and certified conscious uncoupling and co-parenting coach. As a sacred space holder and somatic energy healer, she helps women moving through life transitions, trauma, and major growth walk into the depths of their pain and inner shadows to find and reclaim themselves. By reconnecting to their body's innate wisdom and true nature, they gain a life-changing understanding of themselves that allows for deep healing, self-compassion, grace, and a transformative love of themselves at new levels. She is also the founder of the Healing Hearth Retreat Space, a sacred healing space of remembrance and reconnection, offering remote and in-person events. With 2 locations near Portland, Oregon, she offers custom personal and couples retreats, healing circles, and events. In all aspects of her work, she creates a sacred container for accelerated healing and embodiment, deep self-love and connection, empowerment, and transformation. Did you want to add anything else to that, Anna?
I think that covers it. Basically, I'm a bridge. I'm a bridge from body to spirit, from where you are to where you want to be, from out here to in here. I help people reconnect to themselves, really.
And when you say you help them from where they are to where they want to be, is that like their souls want to be, their soul's purpose, or where they want to be physically? Because you know how some people are very much in their heads and not in their heart. Is it both?
It's both, because where you want to be in your soul is in your body. That is where our soul connects. And you cannot actually be connected to your authentic purpose and giving your gifts and living your fullest authentic life and not be connected to your body. We are spirits in a body. Many years I did the spirit thing out here. And then I was like, oh, I'm a spirit in a body. I need to be in my body. This is the key, the body.
Yes. And I think that is what keeps coming up with the activators and healers that I am speaking with and working with, interviewing. A lot of it is about connecting with the body, because when we come into this world through the industrial birthing complex and going through, mainstream education, we are not connected with our bodies.
Yeah. And it's not even just, mainstream birth, mainstream education, add mainstream food, mainstream television program. They don't call it TV programming for no reason. Everything from the mainstream is on purpose disconnecting us from our bodies, because that is how you disconnect us from our wisdom.
Yeah. And the fact that they have now taken, physical education pretty much out of schools. Right. And wow, it's just, we went to this, one of those like trampoline places, and I was talking to a young kid because we were in there playing dodgeball in there. And she was like, oh yeah, they took dodgeball out of our school because they said it was too dangerous. And we're literally just using these little rubber balls like we're using in trampoline place. I'm like, what? Oh, no way. And I can't remember what else I said. I said, oh, well, I guess you're just going to have to go like hang out on a bar or something. She's like, yeah, they took those out too.
Oh my God.
I'm like, what is going on here?
Well, I mean, they took out music, they took out art. I mean, it's
Everything that connects you to your body.
everything that can connect us is being washed away, which is why this is so important. That's why all of this is so important.
Right. Now, okay, tell me about, I'm hearing a lot about somatic therapy, somatic healing, all of this, and you are a somatic energy healer. What does that mean? What does the word somatic mean?
Yeah. So soma is the body. Yay. So, buzzwords right now are somatic healing and nervous system healing, which is wonderful. So good, because that is how we get back into our body. And so essentially somatic healing is the practice of being in your body, feeling your feelings. So like actually feeling the sensations in your body and being with what's happening in your body, reconnecting to the body. You had one of my most favorite people on the planet, Allison Ellsbury, talking about, teaching this to kids. And really, it's not even teaching it to kids, it's getting out of the way. And it's really us learning it, but how to, as babies, naturally, you would be connected to the earth and you'd be connected to your body. Like that's what babies do. If we leave them alone and let kids be kids, they will naturally be that way. But so many of us weren't brought up that way. And we have carried so much trauma and all the education and the medical and the mainstream, all the things that have disconnected us. And so it's literally a practice of getting back into your body and really feeling. Most of us are out here and up here. I spent, 35, 40 years out in my head because the body isn't a safe place to be. Like so many of us had trauma that the body is still holding on to. And so it creates all these patterns of, control or judgment or shutdown or busyness. One of my favorite quotes by my dear soul sister and mentor is, the language of trauma is tension and not enough space and not enough time. And think about how busy we all are. I gotta do this and I gotta do this and I'm doing this, but anything you're doing quickly, you're doing from a program. You're not actually present. We're not actually in our bodies. So like somatic healing and somatic being, somatic experiencing, all of those things you might hear, nervous system healing, nervous system regulation, all of that gets us off autopilot, gets us out of our head and back into our body, because the body is where everything is stored. Everything can be healed and understood from within the body.
Yeah, and I want to add, when you mentioned the word autopilot, I think people don't recognize that we move a lot in autopilot, habits that form, and they're forming because your body forms these habits as a protection, right, from your trauma and from potentially coming into more trauma or whatever. And these habits, we can change our habits. I was reading a book by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks about how one of his clients would literally change her route every day to work. She would change the way she showered. Everything she did was to break habits. And when you do that, it helps us to break more habits and really get back into that deeper body breaking of habits, because you're now telling your habit brain, no, you don't run the show, I do.
I love that you brought this in, because this is a really like, I'm so passionate about this. So here's what's misunderstood about that's totally relevant on some level. Here's where the spiritual and the energy healing come into somatic, because here's what's being missed in the mainstream. Our body is so important, and being in our body is so important. And understanding that, like, oh, I'm running a habit. Let me break that habit. Here's what is being missed. Everything your body is doing, it's doing it on purpose, by design, because it's very intelligent. So chronic pain, autopilot, overwhelm, anxiety, depression, mania, like whatever, like diabetes, like knee pain, whatever it is. And that's not to say like, stop taking your insulin. Like I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not telling you to stop doing anything. I'm telling you to understand the why your body is doing what it's doing. So just breaking the pattern. Here's what that's doing. Oh gosh, it hurts me a little bit. So part of your body is protecting another part of your body. Like, so think of it this way. Let me back up a little bit so that this is really clearly understood. When we're babies, we have a feeling. So let's say we're in pain or we're cold, we're hungry. We immediately have, so we have an experience, then we have an expression. So we express it out into the environment. We do that so the environment will respond. So the parents, caregivers, whoever that is. So baby has a need, baby expresses the need, environment responds, cycle complete. That's the ideal, complete natural cycle. Need, expression of a need, the response, complete. When that doesn't happen, which even in the best of situations, we can't be there all the time for our babies when they cry. Like even if you Moby them around and like you're constantly there, like you might take a shower or go to the bathroom or whatever. Baby has a need, baby expresses the need, environment doesn't respond. Intelligent design of the body understands like, oh, we're leaking life force because a screaming baby, it will eventually stop screaming. And like the orphanages, like babies will eventually stop crying and they will learn not to cry because what they've learned then is I have a need, I express the need, the environment doesn't respond. So in order to save my life force energy, in order to literally keep me in this body, your body goes, clamps down the energy for you on purpose to save you. So we learn this, we don't even learn it. This is part of our body's innate wisdom. So even with the littlest things, so like a baby being hungry or cold or scared or whatever, when it's not responded to, your body will hold on to that energy on purpose. That's wonderful. And then what happens is like, as we go through life, like think about how many instances you have stopped your body from doing something, or your body has stopped, putting out the energy to save you. So like in really simple cases, like let's say we're in school and we're being bullied and we don't want to cry in front of people because we'd be embarrassed or we're getting teased about it. So we hold in the tears. Or as adults, we're in a meeting and you can't cry at work, or, oh, I don't want to cry in front of my kids, or whatever it is, or I have to go to the bathroom and I'm not going to go. Like you're holding in your body's natural tendency. And so your body will hold that. And then think of like really on the other side, really terrible things that happen. So like actual deep trauma, whether it's like a physical accident or abuse, a baby can't get up and leave a situation. And so the body does it for them. It clamps down, body starts protecting, makes an armor. And like some people literally are walking around with this armor still as adults and not even realizing it. So,
and that armor manifests itself in what ways?
All the ways. So like that armor might be your habit of like being really busy. If I keep myself busy, I don't have to feel what's here. Or it might be chronic illness. It might be arthritis. It might be depression. It might be anxiety. Like it might be, so overwhelm, like we have overwhelm still, like always there's overwhelm, like in points. That is a somatic buildup. So it's a buildup of things that haven't been felt. It's like you're carrying around a box, like putting things in to be, oh, I'll feel that later. I'll feel that later. I'm going to feel that later. I'm going to feel that later. When the box is too full, it's like, think of a tea kettle on high with the lid on. Eventually it goes like, get me off the heat. Like, so your body is literally saying, I have all this stuff to feel. I can't take anymore. Please pay attention to me. That's overwhelm.
Okay.
So understanding this, that like everything your body does. And so like, let's say it's like, oh, I always have neck pain. Well, that's your body holding that energy tension for you until there's a big enough vessel, a big enough space, attention to see it and feel it. So going back to Joe Dispenza, who brilliant. I love the guy, but he's missing the connection, as are many people that just teach the somatic healing piece. They teach the science, but without understanding why, it leaves you doing what his advice is, which is just break that pattern. So in going back to that, the example, let's say, well, actually, I'll just use myself. So I was abused as a child. And so I literally created a, like a shield around myself. Like I was not in my body. So it was not safe to be in my body. All right, let's be in my head. Let's live out here. I controlled everything out here and did everything out here to avoid being in my body because it wasn't safe. That wasn't on accident. That was part of me. So the control part, let's call this the control part. This is a protector of this little gal back here who was so hurt and so unsafe and so vulnerable. This control mechanism going out and like, let's be controlling, let's do this, let's do this. That was a very innocent part of me protecting another part of me. So think of it this way, the autopilot, let's say we have all these habits and we're on autopilot and like, we're in these patterns. Every pattern you have is a piece of yourself standing in front of a really, really hurt piece of yourself. So breaking that pattern, telling this one, you go away, we don't need you anymore. We're going to get out of that habit pattern, like just break the patterns. That's telling this one, don't keep this one safe. Don't do your job. Don't protect this little gal, and just leaving her completely like, it's almost like taking the shield off your heart. And like, when you know someone's like trying to stab it, like you aren't prepared to be with that little gal by just saying, so like, if I'm just going to break my patterns, like, let me just stop doing that. Let me just start driving the other way, or let me just start doing this. That has to be done with sitting with this little gal, because if you're going to take away her protector, she will either, another protector will come in. It's like playing whack-a-mole. Like you're going to take this one out, just like when our body talks to us and we take a pharmaceutical to like make it go away. Like if I have a headache and I take Advil, the headache goes away, but that was my body communicating something or needing something. So it's going to come up somewhere else. So same thing, like if you just try to break your pattern and take away this little gal's protector, somebody else will come in and protect her, or you will feel so unsafe. It's almost like forcing a child to sleep without their stuffy that really makes them feel safe. Like it's just not necessary to do it that way. So like what you want to bring in is the love and the grace and the understanding for two things. One, for your body temple, because like I was like prime, like so annoyed at my body, like, oh gosh, why is my knee pain? Like I want to go running. Like, why does my knee keep hurting? Like just so upset at my body for like not being competent or whatever. Like when I realized all this, that like, oh my God, that's just my body holding all of this old pain and trauma for me. Oh my God, I felt terrible. And then I was like, thank you, body. So like, it gives us a different lens in which to look at all these things. So like, oh, that neck pain, or that, you know, acid reflux, or whatever it is, it's all communication. So that's one thing that does. But the second thing, the second thing is it gives us grace for ourselves. So like, rather than being like, oh my gosh, I'm just in these habits, I need to change that. It's understanding like, oh, that habit is a protector out here, protecting this really wounded little guy or gal, like whoever, you know, we resonate with as like our inner child. Like there's a reason it's there. So going, oh, thank you for being here. Thank you for protecting that little gal, like, you know, what do you need? And the benefit of all this is like being in your body. You don't even necessarily have to understand, you know, this little gal and what she needs. Like oftentimes it will come up in sitting with your body sensations, but your body will literally store everything. So that trauma on the playground, or that trauma at birth, or that childhood abuse, whatever it is, it will come up as body sensations. And sometimes it may also come up as a memory or grief, and you can actually specifically attune it to a situation. But oftentimes it's literally just like energy moving in your body. So it's like literally just showing up for like, okay, my neck hurts. Let me just sit with my neck pain and be with it. It's just like a child that needs to be seen and heard and validated. And then, oh, back to the playground I go.
It's the body needs acknowledgement because it's experiencing something, and instead of shutting it down or yelling at it, we're experiencing it and acknowledging it, and then
We're
we can move
completing the
forward.
cycle. So think of the cycle. So in childhood, or 5 days ago, or 5 hours ago, or 5 years ago, 50 years ago, it's just your body needs to complete the cycle. So there was a need, there was an expression. When that expression wasn't met, when that need wasn't met, your body will hold that until it can be met. And what we do is we call into experiences into our life that will keep like trying to complete this cycle until it completes. So like if y'all have had the experience of like, God, this relationship is exactly like my last one, or oh my gosh, I can't get out of this cycle with my kids. Like, why do we stay in the same cycle? That is by design, because your energetic field is calling that in, because it is held in your body and it wants to be completed. It wants, so let's say this was a big one for me, not being heard. And so like early on, my daughter was a baby, we had foster boys. And so it was literally like, I would say something like 15 times. And then finally I'd be like, why is nobody listening to me? All that needed to happen was me sitting with the part of me that felt like she was not being heard, and actually feeling it. Like I was doing this, like it's about them, like they're not listening. Well, that's because I need to see this part of me that feels unheard. Like it's rarely ever about the other person. Now that doesn't mean
never about the other person.
it's like,
I'm gonna say it's never about the other person.
People, let people treat you poorly, but it means like recognize that like you're bringing that into your experience to literally complete the cycle. So like I had a need, it got expressed, it didn't get responded to, so that cycle wasn't complete. As soon as I was willing to sit with my own self, and like you can sit with that little girl who doesn't feel heard and do it that way, or you can like literally sit in your body, like, where do I feel this in my body? Oh my gosh, it's in my chest, or it's in my jaw, and like it might move around, and like literally experience being in your body to release that. And what I needed to do was sit with that little gal who did not feel heard. And sometimes that takes, many times. If it's a really deep wound, it might take years of sitting over many different things, or it might literally take, 30 seconds. Like it really depends. But like whatever is coming up in our experience is happening to complete this cycle, because then once I sat with her, it completed that cycle. That trauma or that energy was no longer being carried in my body. Cycle complete. And it literally, just goes back into fulfillment of the natural cycle.
Right. Okay, interesting. So, I mean, part of the work that you do with people then, is it like, is it in person? Is it remote? And what does it look like?
It's both. And in the beginning, it's education. So we can put a link to the workshop that I just taught about this that goes into much more detail. I did a free workshop because I want people to know this. It's so important. Yeah. And I'm going to teach a class where it's just literally like the education of understanding, like, oh, this is happening for a reason. So let me not be upset at myself when I yell at my kids. Let me sit with that part of myself. Let me apologize to my kids and let them know what's happening with me, and let me sit with my body. So like part of it is just the awareness and the understanding. So it's the education. Then the other part of it is actually doing this. Like, how do we actually do this? Because it isn't easy. So it took me probably a full year of working with a really wonderful, my mentor and teacher, Angela Johnson of Somatic Mountain Medicine. She literally sat with me, and we call it like horizontal light anchoring. Like when I don't have a nervous system with enough capacity, adding someone else's nervous system with enough capacity makes a big enough vessel so that you can actually feel things in a safe. Because I didn't even know, like, if you would have told me to get into my body and feel my feelings, I would have been like, I didn't even know how to do that. Cause like my body was numb. Like I didn't know how to get into my body. Like when somebody said, feel your feelings, I'm like, okay, that didn't even register as what do I actually do? It's like, oh, okay, what do you feel in your body right now? Nothing. Okay, great. Let's sit with the nothing. Let's sit with the numbness. Like, oh, now I feel some like knee pain. Like, okay, let's just sit and be with the knee pain. Now what do you feel? Oh, I feel constriction in my heart. Like it feels like a block, or it feels like, you know, and literally following the energy around in your body. And so it's education, and then it's holding space and like horizontal light anchoring. So many times what I do is literally sit with people and hold space and direct them into their body. So like we do a practice of like guiding them into their body. So feel your feet on the floor, feel your sit bones, feel your breath, give a swallow, feel your eyes in their sockets, and like just directing them into their body. That's hard for a lot of people. It was hard for me for a long time because my mind would kick me back up on purpose. Thank you, brain. Like, it's not safe here. We got to be out here. So like your brain kicks you back up to the grocery list or the kids or what I'm doing later or the book you're reading or TV, like whatever. It's like, okay, thank you, brain, like back into the body. So like I guide people into their body and then literally teach them how to feel the actual sensations in their body and teach them how to meet those places and hold space, because it's not easy, especially when we were abused or had trauma as children, or let's say abusive relationship, whatever it is. When you're holding that in your body at all costs will be like, no, like that's scary, I don't want to do that. Like you'll want to do anything else. So like having someone there, at least for the first couple times, to teach you kind of how to hold space for yourself, because in the beginning, it's like a cup that you're pouring so much water into that starts overflowing. You need a bigger vessel, you need a sink, you need a pitcher, you need a bigger vessel. That's me. So like I literally hold space for people where we create a really safe container. And a lot of times it's just virtually, like we just do it like this over Zoom and or phone, and we just direct them into their body and hold space. And sometimes we do in-person like group events. Sometimes we do in-person just one-on-one healing. But so it's one thing to get the education, which is necessary. Everybody needs to understand this. But then the actual practice of it is not easy in the beginning. Like I needed someone else to guide me into my body, because I thought I was doing it right. Like when I would like, okay, feel my feelings. Yeah. I didn't know I was doing it wrong until someone taught me how to do it. Like I wasn't actually still in my body. And so oftentimes we do need help.
Yeah. Oh, of course. You know, if we didn't grow up with and we don't know what we're looking for, right? We don't know what the result is supposed to be, or, you know, looks like. So
or we can't even get ourselves to do it, because like our body, like I have a client where she has such good intention and she tries, she's like, I literally can only do it for about 5 minutes without you. And she still tries, and it's still wonderful, because any trying is still like, think of it like, if you go into the forest and you're trying to create, or just a meadow and you're trying to create a track. So like if you're trying to get a track into your body, like the first time you walk on it, it's slow and difficult and you can't get very far. Then the second time you can see your footsteps from before, and you go a little farther, and then you go a little farther, and you can go a little farther. And so you're literally building a track down into your system, down into your nervous system. And pretty soon it's been walked so much that it's like, oh yeah, easy. I'm in my system. But like in the beginning, like she really could not physically sit there for more than 5 minutes. That's okay. Like that's where I come in, and then that's where the practice is. Then maybe after, you know, a couple days, weeks, months, then you can do 6 minutes, or then you can do 10. But it's just understanding and having grace for yourself, not to force through, not to like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to sit here for an hour. I'm going to make myself do it. That's like prying your little protectors off of their like wounded little people. And like, you can do it that way, but that doesn't feel like love. And it really is like traumatic for your system. So
you're just kind of compounding the problem.
Right. Like actually I have a great exercise. Do you want to do it? Do you want to do a little exercise to get this?
Let's do it.
Okay. So if anyone has done this before, do it again, because I am always astounded. So We're going to use both your hands. So unless you're driving, if you're driving, pause and do this later. One hand, pick a hand, doesn't matter which. Their job is to literally contain your life force energy, your purpose, like clenching on to your being, like them. So this hand's job is to not let go, like literally life or death. This hand's job is to keep you in this body. If it lets go, you will literally die. Like that's what this hand thinks. Okay, now your other hand, here's what its job is. Let's do the Joe Dispenza. Let's try to pry it open. Let's change it. So like this hand's job then is to get this hand to let go. Like, no, it's just like, you're doing too much. Like, this is not working. Like, whatever. Like, I want you to do it differently. So like this hand protecting all the things, like your literal life force energy. This hand is to stop it. Literally try. So we're going to take a minute here. Actually try to pry your hand open, but don't hurt yourself. So give it a moment. See what you can do. See if you can get that hand open. Okay. Oh, that makes me hurt inside a little bit.
I mean, I got a little bit of my pinky out.
What did you feel in your body when you were doing that?
No.
Do you know if you were breathing?
Not really.
I almost guarantee you weren't breathing. I gotta shake that. I felt terrible. Okay, let's get rid of that. Okay, now.
Holding my breath.
Yeah. So literally like trying to force, and this is what we do. That's what I used to do, like with my knee pain. I'm just gonna like ice it and do this and run through it. I'm gonna run through the pain, or I'm just gonna keep, working even though I'm tired. I'm gonna drink all the coffee or whatever. I'm gonna try to break this habit. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna force my way through this. That's that. Where like this one's job, remember, on purpose is like, it's doing this to save you. And like, we're like trying to, no, don't do it. Like it's your protector. That's what this one is, protecting this little one. That's who this is. So this time now, we're going to take the love approach. We're going to take the supportive approach with grace and understanding that this one is trying so hard to keep us here. So this time what we're going to do, so same thing, this one is going to squeeze as hard as it possibly can. But this time we're going to come along with our other hand and we're just going to support it. And we're going to say, oh my gosh, I see you working so hard. Thank you. Thank you for holding this. You are not alone. I am here holding this too. Thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for keeping us in this body. I am here too. How did that feel?
Much better, because when I'm doing that, I'm taking deeper breaths.
And I remember the first time I did this, I actually started I think I started weeping when I did this, because this was at the very beginning of like my experience of like being in my body and realizing I had all this trauma and realizing I hadn't been in my body. And my body literally for 40 years was doing this for me in all the ways. Like I had a huge, almost like I was living inside of a box of protection. And so for me to come in and to all my little pieces doing this, to say, you're not alone. Oh my God, because I was alone my entire, child, like I was alone, like truly, and had to be alone and had to do all the things to survive. And so to have then my own self and my higher wisdom or anybody come up and say, you're not alone. I am here too. Like, I just was like, like it was life-changing for me. Yeah. And so when you can recognize, so taking the Joe Dispenza breaking habits again, when you can recognize like, oh, that habit is simply this. Instead of doing this, let's go like this. Like, okay, habit, how have you formed? Okay, autopilot, I see you. Thank you for keeping me safe. Who are you protecting? Like what's behind you? Because it's not like we want to just like, oh, let's not break any habits and let's just stay the same. No, that's not the intention at all. But it's recognizing there is a purpose to everything, even the parts of you that you despise, like the critical part and the part that yells at your kids and the part that's judgy and even to yourself. All of that is one of these holding on and protecting this little gal or guy back here.
Right. And we don't know what caused that. We just know the manifestation. We just see the judgment and we recognize it.
Yeah.
And we can just say, oh, I see myself doing that.
Yeah. And Matt Kahn, have you read Matt Kahn's book, Whatever Arises, Love That? No. Oh, his work is so good. So he has umpteen YouTube videos. He has amazing books, but he has a book called Whatever Arises, Love That. And that is literally the point of this, is like, and this is a big leap. So don't feel like you have to get from like cursing your body to all of a sudden loving it. Like you don't, there's a lot of steps between there. But the point is like, because it's a really hard stretch when like I'm yelling at my daughter to like love the part of me yelling at my daughter. Now I can do it now, but that took a lot of work, because it's like, oh my God, how can I love the part yelling at my daughter? That's terrible. Like I used to judge myself, which did this more. It like added more onto it, because all that judgy, yelly part was the protector. And there was a really hurt part of me down here that needed attention. So when I now recognize that, like, oh, here I am, yelling at my daughter, I go, oh my gosh, okay, I can see this now. So sorry, I need to take a minute for myself. Let me go love the part of myself. And if you can't love the part of yourself yelling at your kids or your husband or whatever, or yourself, then whatever arises, love that. Meaning start at the outside. So maybe you're just going to love the part of you that can't love the part of you that is yelling at yourself. Like, I am just going to be where I am. And like the other thing that I love that he says is, here I am feeling this way. It doesn't require judgment or analyzation. It doesn't have to be good or bad. Like, here I am yelling at my daughter. Here I am feeling this way. Yeah. It simply acknowledges yourself. It's acknowledging, it's doing this. Like, here I am feeling this way. Okay, here you are feeling this way. Here I am in this moment yelling at my daughter. And then what will happen is, like this little wounded gal down here will be like, oh my God, and it's like, okay, that is who I've been ignoring by being really busy or whatever. We were busy, we were trying to get to school. So like we were rushing and I was not in the moment and I was not attuned to my body. So then out it comes, because your body's going to keep telling you what's here to be felt, and it forces you to feel it. Mm-hmm. So it's all by design, and it is all whatever comes up, just being present for it. Like, here I am feeling this way. Here I am feeling like an asshole. Like, here I am yelling at my daughter.
And that's where the grace comes in, and forgiveness. Forgiveness is a very good one. We need to forgive ourselves. I want to also add that I feel like steps to forgiveness and recognition is journaling. Journaling is a really big one for me, and it helps to overcome a lot of these things, to have grace for yourself, because you're working with your body. You're not beating yourself up, or, I'm hoping you're not.
And when you recognize why, so like when you recognize the cycle that's just trying to be completed and the protector, that changed my life, because then I didn't have to judge myself. It was like, oh, part of me, however horrifying it seems to you at the moment, part of me is protecting another part of me. Right. Every time, every single time, no matter how. Now, I'm not talking about like the soulless, like I'm talking about real humans and souls and like actual beings. I'm not talking about crazy psychopaths that are doing insane things. Right. I'm talking about real people. Right. Everything that happens, even the part of you that just you feel like cannot possibly be lovable or be there by design or be there for a reason, it is still a protector of another part. And it might take very many layers to see this other part, but always, 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 it is there for a reason. And it was this. It was keeping you in this body. And so you don't have to love it. You can be like, that's terrible. And it still gives you grace enough to say, okay, I cannot love you right now, but like, I understand you're there for a purpose. So if you can't thank it, that's okay. Here I am feeling this way, being pissed about this situation.
Here I am feeling this way. It's a good statement.
Yeah.
That's one that goes on the mirror.
Yeah.
This way.
Yes, it literally is on my mirror. Because it's easy to forget this stuff.
Yes.
It really is.
Yes.
It's so easy. And it takes, like, the biggest thing is the understanding of it and then the remembering. So like the awareness, and I like to tell my clients, like, make it a game. So if you realize, like, here I am going to my husband, like I used to do that a lot because like it was his problem. Oh, sorry. Like you find yourself like in the middle of that and you're like, oh my gosh,
Why did I do
wow.
that?
Or maybe you realize 2 hours later that you did that to your husband or your kids or your coworker or yourself. Maybe 2 hours later you realize and you're like, oh shit, okay, how can I back that up? Maybe the next time you realize halfway through and you can stop yourself and go, oh wow, here I am criticizing someone else. Here I am feeling really critical. And then maybe the next time you can catch yourself like right when you're about to start and you can go, oh wow, here I am about to like lay into this person.
Yes, yes.
Oh wow. And then you recognize, okay, you're a protector. What actually needs to be felt here? Like, how can I stop and take some deep breaths, tune into my body? Oh wow, I feel a lot of heart constriction, or oh my gosh, my jaw, or oh, I feel like this, like, you know, my nervous system's activated, fight, flight, freeze. Like I've got a quicker heart rate and I'm ready to like fight. Okay, let me just go sit with that because that's a protector. There's somebody behind it. Like, let me just go sit with that part of myself. And so it's like a game of like, how fast can I notice what I'm feeling and what I'm about to do out of program or pattern? And then can I actually complete the cycle? Now you might not be able to do it right in that moment. Maybe you're like in the kitchen and having all the, you know, burners on, you're cooking all the things. Although I have turned off all the burners and gone and sat with stuff before. I'm just like, I can't do it. Turn off all the burners, go to my room, sit for like 10 minutes and come back out. I have done that. But like maybe you're in the middle of cooking or in the middle of like driving your kids to school or in the middle of a meeting at work. And like, you literally can't get up and go be with yourself. You can acknowledge yourself from within and okay, let me be in the present moment. Here I am feeling this way. Little gal, I'm going to come back to you tonight. I'm going to make sure I come back and journal with you later or take time later. But in that moment, you can still acknowledge yourself and it doesn't have to be anything outside of what you're doing. And you can make it again, like how present can I be while I'm washing the dishes? How present can I be in my body while I'm brushing my teeth? Can I feel my feet on the ground? Can I feel my breath? Like you can make it a game as any part of your life in the beginning to try to introduce it. And then it just becomes a way of life where you're actually in your body.
Well, so that's the point when you're talking about, you know, how present can I be when I'm brushing my teeth and do I feel my feet? That's creating new habits.
Yes.
Of being present. Right. Because so many times we're not. And I kind of feel like nowadays, the reason why we have judgment or just reactions is because we're not present. Because it's either something that has happened before and you're waiting for it to happen again and you're anticipating it and you're criticizing that, or you're fearful of something that's going to happen in the future. But if
that's your protector. Yeah, so both of those are your protector running the show, trying to keep you safe from something that might happen again, or distracting you by thinking of something. So let's say, oh my God, she did this and she did that. That is one of your protectors, keeping you distracted from what's going on in here, because it has not presence. Yes. So if you like presence is everything. Yes.
Everything else is like irrelevant.
Right.
So it's all about having this presence. And so the somatic energy healing, the exercises that we go through, right, that you're working people through, it's
literally being present
back
with your body.
Presence.
Yes.
Yes.
Because in a natural world, like the way that Allison teaches in the Brilliant and Barefoot and Embodied Brilliance and all the things, it's literally allowing the child to just be present in their body. That is how, if we were undisturbed, that's how we would be. We would just be.
Yeah.
But we didn't get that experience. We didn't have that. Like I didn't have that luxury. Like most of us didn't. And even if we had a wonderful childhood, we still had all these
things.
And blah, blah, blah. Like, so it is literally a practice of relearning how to be present in your body, be in this moment right now in my body.
Let's go back to, mainstream school. Why are you going to school? For that fear. That fear that you're going to become nothing if you don't go to school, if you're not sitting in a classroom consuming what's coming at you. It's that fear. And so how are you ever going to get into your body if you've never been recognized?
Oh. And everything in school keeps you out like, don't listen to your body. Don't listen that you want to get up out of the desk. Like, especially for
You're not allowed to go to the
boys,
bathroom.
like boys should not be sitting at a desk, and like girls too, but like especially boys, like they need to be moving. So like literally ignore your body and sit at this desk and don't move and be quiet.
And by the way, now you have ADHD because you can't sit despite the fact that you're really not supposed to be sitting developmentally.
Right. ADHD is simply your body like expressing its natural things that have been clamped down. Like that's not
real. It's
That's
not
not
real.
real.
This is what Alice and I will be talking about.
Yes.
In future interviews.
Yes. It's literally like putting all the energy in a capsule and then trying to put the lid on. It's like, oh, that child has a problem. No, that child has no problem. Take the cap off and let their body express and be.
Right. Yeah.
And kids will do this naturally. Like kids will naturally be in their body and be present without, the TV, the take away the technology. Kids will be out in nature. They will be connected, barefoot in nature.
Their imaginations are vast, vast if you just give them space.
They will be in the present moment in their body. They don't have to learn this. We have to learn it because we had all these protection mechanisms on purpose to save us from how we, the world in which we grew up. So unless you grew up like in the forest with the most attuned parents and the most wonderful like situation, which that's amazing if you did. And a lot of people have learned this, how to get back into their bodies, but
oh, for sure.
So many people have bypassed this, like with spiritual practices even. So like with the Joe Dispenza stuff and the science is on one side with bypassing, but there is also massive spiritual bypassing and like, let me just meditate my way out of it. Or my mentor called it spiritual gymnastics. Like, let me see how many like good thoughts I can think over this trauma in my body, because I don't want to feel angry, because that's not an approved, thing to feel or express. And so we're doing all these things to like jump over something or bypass to not actually be in our body to feel them. So whether it's like breaking habits or meditating away from it, you can't get out of this. Like it is in your body. It will be there until you sit with it, until it actually has the environment to respond. You're the environment that can now respond.
Yeah, well, just in defense of Joe Dispenza, I think what he does is not just science. I've not really dove into it. I love his book. However, I think that what he does is he works people through all of this through breath work. Like really, really.
I spent many years doing his things, and it's great, but it does miss the spiritual aspect of like, there's a gap between the understanding, in my opinion, and it could be totally different for someone else, but in my opinion, it misses the connection between the body and the spirit in the dynamics of like the grace and like understanding why your body's doing something, because you can essentially, breathe your way out of it. What that's doing is putting you in your body and attuning and being present. But when you don't come with the self-love and compassion and grace, that's a huge piece. Like being able to love yourself and understand why these things are happening, and to understand that it's all by design and your body's so intelligent. So the practices work amazingly, and let's put the layer on it of like the self-love and grace. So I think you need both. So his stuff, I'm not saying at all like, oh, don't do that stuff. It's amazing. The science is amazing, but add the layer of the spirit and the understanding, because that is what completes it all.
Yeah, I get it. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's all really great. Now tell me, you have workshops that are coming up, and you also have these, quick virtual Zooms that you do, right? And so what's your next workshop and how long is it?
We'll put the link for the freebie for the workshop I just taught, which is like a more extended version of this. And then I'm working on a 3-part class right now, which will be coming out probably toward the end of March, where it will be just learning more in depth about this stuff through short videos. And then we will be doing practices where like literally I'm guiding you into your body. So this will be done by video on your own time. And then we'll have a live practice and Q&A session. So that's the next thing coming up, and that will just be available on an ongoing basis, like on your own time. And then I'll probably do monthly somatic, you can call them like somatic feeling events, like where, we get together, I guide you into your body. Like we'll use somebody as an example, because it's really interesting to see how this actually works in time. And so we'll actually be able to sit and do it in practice with people, virtually, and I'll be doing some in person too, but most of it's virtual because I work with people all over the world. So that will be going just kind of always. And then I also do individual packages where people buy healing packages and we just come and we unpack whatever's in their box ready to be felt. And like your body, you don't have to know what it is. You don't have to come with anything, but a lot of people do come with a specific grief or trauma or repetitive cycle. And we just sit and hold space for it and allow it to unfold.
I love that. Now, do you also, do you just work mainly with adults?
I do work mainly with adults because that tends to be the ones really not in their body. And there are such amazing people out there like Allison working with the kiddos. But any of this, like if you have older children, you could absolutely watch with them. Like this is all information that, and even like, but see, that's the thing, like my little girl's almost 8, but like, she doesn't need to be doing this. She's just like, oh yeah, I'm already in my body. Like it doesn't, but like, if you have an older kid, this would be something that if they felt interested in watching it with you or doing some of the practices with you, it would be great for them.
Great. Okay. That's good to know. Good. And do you recommend that pregnant people do this? Good. And do you recommend that,
oh my gosh,
just because you're about to have a child, it would be great if you connected with your
that is
own
the
body
best time. Yes,
okay.
the best time to be in your body. And actually that's the easiest time to be in your body because you have so much going on that you can literally feel, and there is already so much connection. So it's an amazing time to clear out as much of your own trauma and as much of your own holding and patterns before they come. Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
How to be in your body makes a birth easier. It makes parenting easier. I mean, it makes everything easier. There's nobody that shouldn't know this.
Okay, good. That's good.
Everyone should practice being in their body all the time.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Eventually it won't be a practice. We'll just be in our body. But for me, it's still a practice. Like I still have times where I was like, oh, wow, I just sat for, 2 hours and needed to pee and I didn't because I was right in the middle of something. Like, sorry, body, it is a practice. And when it isn't anymore, that's wonderful.
Yeah, when we actually listen all the time.
And it's just being, we're so connected that it's not even about listening. It's just automatic. It's like how I'm thirsty, I drink water. It's like an automatic thing of like, oh, I feel this happening in my body. It will just be automatic because that's innately our intelligent design. That's how we are built. So when we stop putting, little traumas in, and when we're available for it, then it just starts flowing the way it's naturally meant to.
Yeah. And I want to add one more thing. So, back in the beginning, when you were talking about babies crying, completing the cycle, and there's so many times where we just physically cannot as parents, right? And I know that mamas tend to have a lot of guilt.
Oh yes. Don't use this as like, oh my God, I'm harming my baby. So here's how this works. Baby cries, baby needs something, expresses. When the environment can't respond, it doesn't create massive trauma if you come and attend, in 10 minutes or an hour or even, 5 hours later. Like this cycle will be completed. Like I'm talking about like when it never got attuned to. So like if you're an attuned mother or father, caregiver, whatever, and you're doing what you can, obviously no kids are going to get through without some form of like, whatever it is, but like, this isn't thank you so much for bringing this up. This is not a like recipe for like how you have to be a parent. Like, oh my gosh, never let them cry. Like, it's just like being attuned to your own system will help you attune to theirs. And if you're in the shower, if you just need a moment to yourself, if you're attuning to yourself and they're crying, that's okay. Let them know what's happening. Like, I hear you and I'm here. You're not alone. I have to go sit with myself for a moment. I will be back in 10 minutes. Like I did that. Even when you think a baby doesn't understand, they will.
Energetically, they know.
Yeah, energetically, they know. So like if what you're doing is, I have to, because it's always, you know, the airplane, put your mask on first, then you help your kids. Always you show up for yourself first, and then, because otherwise you cannot give from an empty cup. I wrote an article about that years ago. Like you can't, like there's nothing to pour. So like you are with yourself first, because then you're overflowing with attunement for them. So like if you are in the middle of something and you literally just cannot, then when you can, I'm here. I'm so sorry you were alone. I hear what you need. What do you need? Like, I'm here for you. You know, when your kids really need attention, let's say they're 5 and they really need attention, but you're in the middle of a meeting, or you just really need a moment. I hear you. I'm here. I love you. I have to do this right now. I need 5 minutes, or I need 1 hour. I will be with you in 1 hour. And then you go to them and then you complete the cycle. So what do you need? I'm here. I'm giving my full presence now. It probably will take 30 seconds of your full presence to complete that cycle.
Right.
So yes, thank you so much for bringing that in.
Even if your child, you know, someone's listening to this and your child is, I don't know, 10, right? And you've already gone through all of these things that you can go back and think, oh, that might have been really traumatic. Oh, maybe that might have been. Guess what? By tuning to yourself, your own healing heals all the people around you. And the fact that when you're more attuned and your child feels a certain way, you're not emotionally negating their emotions. That supports their healing as well. So we're always evolving.
And we can still be the bigger vessel for them. So like, let's say that this then makes me recall this time when like, oh my gosh, my daughter was 5 and I screamed at her and it was terrible and blah, blah, blah. First, I sit with it within myself, because that is still held in my body. So I sit and I feel and I emote, whatever that looks like. And then that in itself, just like you said, might already just complete the cycle. But then you can go to your child, regardless of how old they are. Maybe they're 3 months old, maybe they're 30. You can go to your child and say, hey, I just worked through this within myself, and I just want you to know that I am sorry. And if there are things that you want to feel or heal, whatever you feel called to say, you can complete the cycle for them at that point. You can show them how to do it within their own body if they're old enough. Like, hey, let's sit. Do you still have, do you remember that? How did that make you feel? I'm so sorry. And you can explain the grace that you have for yourself. Like, here's the position I was in. It was really traumatic for me. I was disconnected and I was in pain and I didn't get the help that I needed. And here's how that, created a reaction to you. How do you feel about that? Oh, I'm fine. Or that was really terrible. Like, if you have old enough kids, this might bring really deep healing. And that was crazy. And I felt like you didn't love me. I am so sorry. Let's hold space for the part of you that did not feel lovable. And that completes the cycle on both ends. I mean, this is amazingly healing for everyone.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah. So good.
Well, that was very exciting.
Yeah.
I think you shared a lot. That's really beautiful.
And the basis of it all is love. Like, how can I bring more love into this situation? Starting with me.
Yes.
Starting with me, like your own acknowledgement, being present with yourself is love. It's the highest form. It's what's missing in self-love. Like bubble baths are great. Massages are great. But this, showing up for myself, here I am feeling this way, that is the ultimate self-love.
Right. Right. And that's important, because that, baths and all of that is it's the outside. We really have to focus on the inner, right? Everything begins within.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we'll be dropping your website, right, in the notes, and they can schedule one-on-ones with you on your website. Right?
You can do discovery calls on the website, and I will put in the link to receive the workshop. Yep. And how to contact me and get in my family email list to the community.
Okay,
So
great.
Yeah,
And
update on all the things.
fantastic. And that exercise that you shared with me earlier, was that the exercise that you were going to share with us?
Yes.
Perfect. I think our time is up.
Yeah,
And I really enjoyed our time together. I really enjoyed our conversation.
it's a fun one.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you so much.
And I'll see you soon.
Yes.